Welcome to the Chicago Bears Podcast, a presentation of ESPN Chicago, Chicago's home for sports. Here's your host, Pat, the designer.
Bear down, Chicago. Welcome into a Wednesday edition of the Chicago Bears Podcast. Pat, the designer, back at it again, joined by Jason McKie, J-Mac in the building, former Chicago Bears fullback. J-Mac, what's good?
What's good, Pat? How you doing, my man?
Hey, man, I'm just still excited to be here. I walk in this office every day, and I'm like, hey, they ain't turned the card off yet. I seen that video last night of old boy when they pranked him. He was like, did they cut me? I think it was a Jair Alexander, one of them. He hit the thing. He was like, did they cut? They must have cut me.
As long as your name tag is still on your locker, you're good, man. That's what we used to do. You used to come in the locker room during training camp, and you look. Well, you ain't gonna get in the locker room first because they're gonna cut you at your dorm. But sometimes, after practice, they start clearing that name tag off your locker, man.
Yeah.
They put all your stuff in the trash bag, bro. And I can recall the training camp, us taking a golf cart, because they had guys taking us a golf cart on golf carts down there at Olivet Nazarene, and us riding to practice. And then one of your boys who you just had dinner with, the night before, coming the opposite way in a golf cart saying, hey, dog, best of luck to you guys, dog. Wish y'all the best of season. And that's tough, man. When you build like a bond with that guy, it's tough, man. It's tough business.
That's crazy, man. Hey, man, we got to talk about how tough it's going to be and what we're going to see out of this Bears team. Are they going to be able to take it to the next level? I think Justin Fields might. And there's some numbers that would back this up. And the thing that excites me about this numbers is there's some quarterbacks that are a part of these numbers that you don't look at and be like, wow, that's a Hall of Fame quarterback. So we'll talk about that. Also, got to look at what this Bears team's going to be able to do with these road games, get J-Mac's perspective on some of the toughest places to play on the road. And then who do we feel is going to have the biggest impact that maybe we're not talking about yet? Couple of names that might come up in that. All that and more on today's episode of the Chicago Bears Podcast. Good Lord. Make sure that you guys hit that like button, subscribe to the page. We're doing this Monday through Friday. Let's get into the first quarter. So I've done some extensive research here, J-Mac.
All right.
On quarterbacks in the system that the Chicago Bears are now running here with Luke Getsy, and some guys that have come up in that system, some different names on this list where the numbers in year one to the numbers in year two are ridiculously different, drastically different. I'll give you just some of the names real quick here. Jake Plummer, Matt Schaub, Matt Ryan, Jimmy Garoppolo. Then you get to Kirk Cousins and Aaron Rodgers. So a few names on there of quarterbacks that you look at and you say, all right, okay, they are all right. There's some names there. Jake Plummer in 2003, playing in a very similar system to what Justin Fields is coming in with Luke Getsy, 2,182 yards, 15 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. 2004, 4,089 yards, 27 touchdowns, 20 picks. A lot of picks. Let's keep the picks down. Yep. Matt Schaub, very similar jump. 2008, 3,043 yards, 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. 2009, 4,700 yards, 29 touchdowns, 15 interceptions. I'm not going to go through this entire list of guys, but the jumps are very similar, very much with the touchdowns as well. When you looked at Aaron Rodgers when he played in it, still, of course, he's Aaron Rodgers, right? He's not going to have the 20 interception season, but first season, 26 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Second season in it, 48 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. He's godly, unfortunately. So I'll ask you this. In your time with the Chicago Bears, J-Mac, you played under 3 different offensive coordinators. I believe your first year you had John Shoop. Correct. You had Terry Shea for a season. That was I forgot about that. We was talking
names, man.
We was talking about quarterbacks that was there for just a flash in the pan. Like Terry Shea, I forgot about Terry Shea.
Man.
And then you played with Ron Turner most of your time. Speak to how you believe playing in a system for more than one season versus playing in a system that is always getting changed can affect your play on the field, how that's going to help Justin Fields take a jump this season.
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, it's just the understanding and I'll break what I mean. I'll break down what I mean by understanding. So it's one, obviously the first part is understanding the offense, understanding the terminology, understanding in terms of what your position job detail is. What are you required to do based upon your position, knowing your role within the offense, knowing what the expectation is in the offense. So with that being said, when you have that understanding, what's expected of you, you can go out there and play faster. In a huddle, when that play's called, I'm not thinking about, okay, what do I have to do here? Do I have to chip before I get out on the flat? Do I have the Mike and Sam in this protection? Who do I have based on this front? Which linebacker do I have if we're running power, if we're running duo, if we're running outside zone? Things of that nature. You having an understanding, being in the second year in a system, you have a better grasp of what you're supposed to do. So now you just go out there and play fast.
Yeah.
So the second part of that understanding, and I'll break it down, is understanding, having a better relationship with your offensive coordinator and the guys around you within that system. So now, my offensive coordinator, he knows more about me as a player, what my abilities are, what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are. So, the great offensive coordinators, they're going to, they in the second year system, they're not going to tweak too many things because they want you to know it, like I said before, but they want to play towards your strengths, and they want to limit the things they do that will highlight your weaknesses. So I think, with Fields and Getsy, him being a second year in the system, Getsy has an understanding of what does Justin do well? What does he excel at? And now Justin and him have that relationship. They built a better bond of having the second year with each other, where Justin could probably go to Getsy and say, you know what? I like this. I like this route concept. We run this combination. I feel comfortable, every day of the week that ends in Y, throwing this route concept. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I like this. I like this play action. I like this quarterback design run. And Getsy, has an inclination of what Justin Fields' strengths are. So he'll tweak some things, I'm sure, to change things up a little bit. But I hope he doesn't make drastic changes, because obviously you want Justin to have that second year of growth in the system, not just him, but all the players.
Yeah.
So you got to look at the offensive line as well. You got Braxton Jones, second year in this system. Tevin Jenkins will be in this system again. You bring in Darnell Wright and all these other pieces, Nate Davis. You bring players around Fields that can make him successful. Bring him an offensive line, a young offensive line that can keep him upright and build his confidence up. Because we know if a quarterback is not getting hit after every throw, his confidence is going to grow, especially when you're coordinating and you're putting him in position to make, to get him started. You put him in position to make easy throws, to build his confidence up. And then if his jersey's not getting dirty, he's gonna gain more confidence. And the more confidence he gains, the more plays he'll make. So I think just those two things, understanding your offense and building a broader relationship with your offensive coordinator, will definitely help him take the next step in this offense.
How does that affect you, right, in where I think it's most important inside of your division? Because second year in this, right, there's been a major change up in that team up north, right? But outside of that, there hasn't been a ton of change in what these lineups are bringing. You're going to see a lot of the same players on the defense. You're going to see a lot of the same players on the other side of the ball. How does that affect you when you come into the second year of an offense, and now you even know the tendencies of the other team that you're going up against?
Yeah, I mean, you have an idea of how they want to play you, but obviously things are going to change. So now the defenses within our division, they know about Justin's running ability. You know what I'm saying? A couple of games he may have caught him off guard, and they may have said, wow, we didn't know he was that fast or that explosive. But now they know. And in this league, these defensive coordinators, they catch up. We've seen a lot of great offensive players come in this league and come in and make a splash, and then the next year you don't really hear about them because the defenses catch up. They change up their scheme, or they devise a plan to negate the big plays that the individual player is making. So, I can see now this division, a lot of great defensive coordinators and great defenses within this division. I can see them saying, you know what, we got to make Justin beat us from the pocket. We are not going to let him run. We're not going to let him get break contain and run up and down the field on us like he did the previous year. So, I know Getsy understands that, and those are the tweaks that I was talking about. So Getsy knows what they have on film. You know what I mean? But you don't want to make wholesale changes because you don't want to confuse your guys. You want to keep them comfortable within that system. But at the same time, you do a little things like we used to call window dressing it. So you come out, you line up in a different formation that you may not have put on film the previous year. You add a motion or a shift, but you're still running the same play. So outside zone, you can run it from different personnel. You can, add a motion on there, different things like that to make it look different to the defense, but it's still the same play in terms of the offensive line blocking scheme. And those are the guys you definitely don't want to confuse.
Yeah, it's to me, when I look at how Justin Fields could take a step based on the numbers that this system is shown and having an understanding of the guys across, like you were just talking about. I look at a guy who last season averaged about 150 yards a game, passing wise, right? He's running all over the field. He's doing a ton with his legs more times than not. And I think about the fact that a lot of teams are, like you said, going to try and force him to be a passer. Very much like I'll never forget. I want to say it was the Lions, but I don't know. The Lions weren't good, and he always beat them. So it probably wasn't the Lions. But there was a DB that when Mitch was here, he said, we're going to make him play quarterback. Like, you're not going to get out and be able to use your legs on us. We're going to make you play quarterback. So they put spies on him. And we kind of saw that with Justin last year in that Detroit game where they weren't going to rush him. They were just going to stay in their spots. They were going to allow him to stand behind the pocket and try to make throws knowing he didn't have the receivers to do it. I think that now if you do that with an improved receiving core, with Justin having more of an understanding, right, if the stats stay the same, you could be looking at Justin Fields extrapolating out to basically having a 3,000 plus passing yard season if he throws about 180 yards a game, right? Yep. And then on top of that, you add in another 600 yards. You're talking about a 3,600 yard season, 30-something passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions. That's a season where you know that you have a franchise quarterback. And so that's what now I'm coming into this and I'm looking at not just what Justin Fields has been added, but the history that this system has put in place with not just all-star quarterbacks. That's the point I wanted to bring out with this. It's not just Aaron Rodgers. Right. I'll give you Kirk Cousins even, right? Listen, Kirk Cousins may not be the end-all be-all, but he's a very above average quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo improved his game from 12 touchdowns, 8 picks to 27 touchdowns, 13 picks, and he added 1,500 yards to his total.
Definitely.
So that, to me, gets me excited. It makes me believe that there's a major step coming this season for Justin Fields, and I keep telling people, like, stop underselling what he should be able to do. Because I think that he is going to be poised to take a real step. And like you said, the point that you brought out that I love is that Getsy knows how to use him now. And it felt like for half the season, he had no idea what Justin Fields was.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, you have to look at it like this, too, Pat. There's some offensive coordinators, right? They just know a system. You know what I mean? It's their system. So they'll try to, put a quarterback in that system. And his skill set may not fit that system. His skill set may not be able to flourish in that system because the things that you're asking him to do within that system doesn't fit his talent. You know what I'm saying? So if you're trying to force a quarterback to do things he's not comfortable with, whether you're going to get terrible results. But if you have a coordinator, right, who has his system, but he has the ability and the willingness to change that system and make that system adapt to the quarterback that he has, well, then that's when you're going to get, those numbers you talked about in terms of those quarterbacks in their second year in that system, because now, like we talked about previously, this coordinator knows his quarterback, right? He's got a bigger grasp on this quarterback. He knows what his strengths are, like I said before, and he knows what his weaknesses is. So when he's game planning, he's going to make sure that, first off, when I come out, I've got to do something to get my quarterback comfortable. I got to get him into the flow of the game, but he's not going to put him in situations, or he's not going to devise a game plan or make a call that's going to, hinder his quarterback's confidence or put him at a disadvantage. And that's what the great, I think, offensive coordinators do, not just with their quarterback, with their players in general. You know what I mean? If you have a running back and he's more of an outside zone runner, like in this scheme, well, you're not going to force him to run power. You're not going to force him to run power, which is more of a gap scheme, or you're not going to have him, really run in between the tackles a lot. You're gonna give him the ball and let him go out there and work, based upon what his strengths are. So, And interesting too, Pat, I would like to look at, you mentioned all those quarterbacks before their second year in that system. I think one thing we got to look at too is they were in that system for a second year, but what was the talent around them their first year compared to the talent around them their second year? So we look at the talent we have now. I mean, you have last year, let's be real, defensively. If I'm a defensive coordinator and I looked at this roster last year in terms of the receiving core, there's nobody that really scares me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's nobody that really scares me. You say, hey, you know what? We got to stop the run. We got to stop Justin Fields running, Dave Montgomery, and Khalil Herbert. That's it. That's all we got to do.
Yeah.
That's all we got to do. Now, I mean, you've got a good group of receivers, and we've got a good collection of receivers that can all do different things. You know, you've got Moore, who's a bona fide one. He can play outside, he can play inside, he can do a lot of things. Claypool's a bigger guy. Mooney's in the slot. You drafted Tyler Scott, who can stretch the field. Velus Jones, you can line him up everywhere. So he can run reverses. You know, you can put him anywhere. Then you got the two tight ends, Cole Kmet and Tanya, who's had, success in this league for a long time. So you have a good group of receivers that have a variety of skill sets in which now Getsy can say, you know what, we can do a lot of different things because we have these type of receivers. Last year, I don't think the talent level was as high as it is in the room this year. So just based off when you're bringing in better talent and surrounding a young quarterback with great talent, and then you can get that running game revved up, it takes a lot of pressure off him. You know what I mean? So now he's not going out there. He's not in the huddle saying, you know what, I got to make a play. I've got to run a quarterback sweep and break it for 60 yards. Like, you're not going to have to do that. You're going to be able to get the ball, in the hands of your playmakers, get the ball to them in space, let them make plays, turn around and hand that ball off to all them running backs you got in that stables back there and let them eat. And that's going to make your job easier.
Here's the interesting part about all of it, though, right? Like, a lot of these guys that we say, it's weird that it feels so different because I think there were so many names that were just they weren't what you wanted them to be. But realistically, Darnell Mooney's second year in this system now, Cole Kmet second year in this system now, Robert Tonyan's. I think that's the real part, that Robert Tonyan's here now. He's played in this system for 4 years now, basically. So that to me, I think is a big addition. He knows where to be already. Chase Claypool, hopefully he's got this system figured out by now. Came in middle of the season, wasn't able to kind of get on board with what they were trying to do there. So now you're talking about, okay, we got Chase Claypool adding into that mix. Now all the pressure isn't on DJ Moore to be in the right spot every single time, because there's going to come a point in the season, hopefully not later in the season, but early in the season, where he's not on the right route or he's not in the right spot because something, right, like he got mixed up on a call or something like that. But there's going to be 4 or 5 other guys that know where to be in the system. I think that that's so important heading into this second year. Let's keep it moving right along, J-Mac, because we got plenty to talk about. There's rumors flying all around as we get into the second quarter. Now, listen, the only reason I'm bringing this to the show is because the Chicago Bears need an edge rusher terribly, and Danielle Hunter's really good. But and his contract situation I don't know if the Packers and him just hate each other at this point, but they seem to never be able to get on board with a contract situation. He's a really good player. I love what he's done in the league so far. I believe 10.5 sacks last season. Yeah. The only season where he's had under 10 sacks is where he hasn't been able to play just about every game, and almost every season he's played just about every game outside of 2021 and I believe 2015 early on. He didn't play every game. Could Danielle Hunter be a trade target from the Vikings for the Chicago Bears, with the caveat that, at least because I was looking on Pro Football Reference, it only goes back to 1994. Chicago Bears have never traded with the Minnesota Vikings. Will he be the first? Yeah.
And that's what you look at too, right? You look at teams trading within the division, right? And I know Detroit traded, who was it, Hawkinson within the division, right? They traded him
to Minnesota.
Yeah, to Minnesota, exactly. So I look at it like this too, and we know what Poles is going to do. We know, what his thinking is in terms of the organization, right? He's not going to make a jump, or he's not going to overspend, or he's not going to put us in the situations to not be competitive in free agency year in and year out, but in the offseason year in and year out, whether it's the draft, free agency, he wants to make sure that We have the picks, we have the money, and we have the draft capital to be able to, keep this thing rolling, continuing to get good players that fit the culture and everything that they're trying to build, up there at Hallis Hall. So it's with Danielle Hunter, obviously it's he had production. I think he's a solid pass rusher. I think he would fit well in the scheme, but what is the cost in terms of the reward? Yep. Well, the reward is you're going to get a guy who had 10.5 sacks that can, get to the quarterback, something that we couldn't do last year consistently. What's the cost? What's the price? And what is the willingness if he does? Is Minnesota going to want to do that? Or are they going to try to make us overspend, knowing that they're trading a guy that can make plays? So they're going to have to see 2 times throughout the year if they make that trade. Yeah. I'm a fan of Danielle Hunter. I think he could definitely be a huge upgrade and help this defensive line as a whole. But what is the cost? And I'm with Poles. You know what I mean? I like what he's doing in terms of making sure that we're able to be set up for success year in and year out, and not put us, behind the 8 ball the following year just because we want to make a splash and grab somebody, and then we don't have a draft capital or money the following year to be competitive in the offseason.
Here's where I would love to see him make this trade for 2 reasons. One, because we have the money to do it. Right. Even though, right, like you at some point you're going to have to pay Justin Fields. But we've got some guys on some cost-friendly deals. We've got some guys that realistically probably won't be here 2 seasons from now. I know we all love Darnell Mooney, but if Chase Claypool gives you similar production, they're going to pay Chase over Mooney. You're going to have DJ Moore here. I believe he's still under contract for 2 more years, I believe. So you've already got that contract on the books. Danielle Hunter is still under 28 years old. He's still a young stud in this NFL. He's going to be somebody that can grow, and I think that he's somebody that fits what Ryan Poles, the kind of players he went after in the offseason were. Now, the problem comes in, right, where people don't want to give up that first-round pick. The question that I would have for you is there a first-round pick that's better than Danielle Hunter coming in next season? I don't think so. I don't think I've seen that on the defensive end. So if you're giving up a first-round pick, maybe a couple of picks to try and go out there and get him, would that be something where you're saying, yeah, I'm giving up this pick, but there's nobody that's better than him? And I think the other thing is, too, clearly he wants to be with a team for a long time. Clearly he wants to have a long-term contract, so he has the financial stability. He's able to stay there. That's my only fear with Yannick Ngakoue. Yeah. I love Yannick Ngakoue. I want him to be here. I went through it and I saw that he's been with a lot of different teams. He's been traded to a lot of different teams, kind of like because he was their best piece to trade when they signed him, basically. Yeah. But does he want to be a long-term player? Does he want to stay in a place for 4 or 5 years? I'm fine with throwing a Band-Aid on it this season and maybe going out and addressing it in the draft. But that brings us back to my first question. Is there a player in the draft better than Danielle Hunter?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that's why you got to have a great scouting department. You know what I'm saying? Because every year we know there's going into a college season, right? There are the players that are in the limelight or in the spotlight, right? Yep. The guys who they're saying, he's definite first round pick or he's a day 1 pick. And then there's always a guy that comes out of the woodwork that has a great season that you didn't really hear about. Yeah. And next he's in that top 10 or that top 20 in the first round. We saw it this year. You see it every year. So you got to have a good scouting department. The scouting department, they do a lot of extensive studying. They've already broken down guys, to a T already, from A to Z. They know what they did in middle school. They know how many detentions they got. They know everything. Yeah. And they continue to do their research day in and day out to make sure that they're getting the type of player that they want within their organization. So yeah, that's a good question. Is there somebody that has better upside than a Danielle Hunter? But I don't know that question. I don't know.
Realistically, yeah, that's on the scouting department, like you said, to figure out. But it's one of those things where I know everybody we want all the draft capital. We want as much draft capital as possible. I want the best players.
Definitely.
And listen, the reason that there are people that said we should have got more for the first overall pick, and if we waited on draft day, we'd have gotten more. There's no wide receiver in the draft better than DJ Moore.
No, not polished. That and the thing is, you're and like you said, that's a good point. Like DJ Moore, right? He's been a known. Like he's known, all right, he's going to be productive, right?
Yeah.
With all these guys in the draft, I don't care. You're the first pick, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud. It's a crapshoot. It's a crapshoot. You don't know what these guys are going to pan out to be. You can look at them on film and you can say that their game is going to translate to the NFL level. But at the same time, how do you know that? You don't know that. You don't know. And it's funny because of the reports now, you look at it, oh, this guy's been lighting up minicamp. CJ Stroud's been lighting up minicamp. Anthony Richardson's, he's on fire. He's been lighting up minicamp, throwing darts all over the field. The man is not even in shoulder pads. There's no pass rush coming out. How can you light up minicamp with no true pass rush? You know what I'm saying? They got to say that. It's propaganda. You have to say that because you have to justify, right, making that pick. So GMs, they want to justify making their pick, especially their top picks. They're going to give them every opportunity to be successful because if that top pick fails, guess what? Now your job credibility is on the line. Your job's on the line. Because, hey, like you said before, when we started the show, it's a production-based business.
Yeah.
GMs they get hired and fired all the time. So if you're not bringing in players that can help produce and you're continuing bringing in players that don't pan out, well, guess what? That whole scouting department's job's on the line. Your job's on the line. So, that's why it's so important to do your research. But at the same time, you're hoping that you've done enough research in terms of knowing the man, but also knowing the player and, knowing this guy's character, because what you don't want to happen is, you interview this guy so many times, you go out to visit him, you work him out, and, he's saying all the right things. But guess what? When that signing bonus hits his bank account, what happens to his work ethic? What happens to his willingness to go out there and want to practice every day?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of going to the car lot and say, I want this Mercedes. Yeah, I want this house with a pool, instead of him being in his playbook. Those are things that a scout, he can't scout. Those are things that you can't put you can't measure that because you don't know what that player is going to be like when he gets money or when that status changes overnight. Because there's some guys that come from all different economic backgrounds, Pat. And if this guy goes, if he's in college, right, and the guy can't afford pizza, but then the next day he can buy Pizza Hut, he could buy a franchise of Pizza Hut.
Yeah.
What happens to his work ethic?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's not in his playbook. He's in his car manual trying to figure out how to make sure this auto starts working. You know what I mean? He's in his car playbook, but not in his offensive or defensive playbook.
Yeah. No, first off, where'd you buy that car from? If you're trying to figure out how the auto start working, you gotta take that back. You bought a lemon, my boy. You bought a lemon. Yeah, man. I think NIL is going to change so much with so much stuff, dog. Like I look at them NIL deals and I just be like, man. I think there are some leagues that I believe will collapse. I don't think it'll be any of the major leagues, but there's going to be some leagues that are out there that will collapse because the players don't want to. They don't have a need to go play. They're like, can you imagine? First off, Stetson Bennett being there like 17 years at Georgia. Can you imagine, right? Like how if he had NIL the whole time? Like,
man, these college coaches, right? They come to the school, and I asked them about NIL and the transfer portal, man, and it's funny the amount of the varying opinions on it. Some coaches come through and like, man, like, how can I tell this guy to come to practice? He's making more than me. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got guys making more than their position coaches or even their coordinator at their respective school. Like, it is unbelievable, man. Like, hey, trust me, if I was, man, look,
hey, I'm get money right.
Yeah, if I'm trying to, hey, I'm in college too, and NIL was around, I may have not have played in the league because your mindset is going to change. Your priorities are going to change, especially when you're getting money that early and you didn't have that. You know what I'm saying? It's going to change.
Big fullback market out there for the NIL deals. You think, Doug?
Nah, they would have gave me like in Philly. I would have got like a automatic gift card for like Pat's or Geno's Steakhouse. J-Mac, no charge, my friend. Hey, you want provolone and mushrooms on that? Hey, we got you, my guy.
Hey, man, I want to go to Philly for one reason, and then I want to come right back. I need to try these 2 Philly cheesesteak spots that everybody say are the 2 best Philly cheesesteak spots. I don't even know their names, but
Pat's
they said Pat's and Geno's. All right.
I would have had an unlimited Pat's and Geno's card. I told you, man.
How good is it? Is it worth me driving down there and driving back?
I mean, but you know how it is. Those are the 2 tourist spots. You know what I'm saying? And they're right next to each other. So everybody's like, oh, I'm gonna go to Pat's, go to Geno's. But there's so many other places like mom and pops, like places
it's the deep cuts that got it.
Yeah, that's like, you know what I'm saying? You're getting the goods. You're not getting the tourist, you know, the touristy cheesesteak where they're trying to rush it out and they're all about production. Mom and pops, you're getting that quality. You're getting that good quality. It's their
version of Giordano's.
Exactly.
It's their version of Giordano's. Okay, I got you, man. Because I swear, I keep telling y'all, Chicagoans, deep dish pizza is not Chicago pizza. Y'all got to stop thinking that. Y'all got to stop thinking that. We don't eat that daily. Y'all got to stop thinking that, bro. They really think we just out here slamming deep dish every day. No, when y'all come to the city and y'all want Chicago pizza, and y'all be like, let's go to Giordano's. We watch y'all die on that, and then we eat one piece and be like, I'm good for the month. Let me go get this bar style.
Yeah, Chicago's serious about its food, man. I remember my rookie year, I came here, and you know I'm a Florida guy, and got a hot dog. I was like, let me get ketchup, all this stuff on there. They wanted to choke me.
Yeah, you committing sins out here. You sinning out here, brother. You was sinning. Hey, man, let's get off of that topic. Ketchup on the dog. Let's get into the halftime show real quick, J-Mac, because halftime is my favorite time. It's time we get to promote anything. J-Mac, you got anything to promote? And I got a question for you based off of last night's game.
Yeah, man. Nah, just everything's good, man. No complaints. Kids growing up, you know, kids getting older, man. Two kids about to start driving, so you know I'm in the car market. I gotta try to find
the car market out here.
The car market now, man.
Hey, write that down, Eric. He's in the car market.
Man, they're trying to take my truck and everything, man. So it's,
hey, that's why he in the car market. Hey, Pop, can I run the truck to the stop? Hey,
where are my keys at, man? So it's a cool thing, man. You know, as a parent, like the time goes fast. You know, you see your child, you know, in diapers, learning to walk, and next thing you know, you're coaching them out on the football field. So, you know, you got one of my sons is gearing up for football camps. Dad, I want to go to this camp. I want to do this camp. I want to go to this camp. And you see his growth and maturity and his work ethic growing. And, you know, obviously one of them wants to play college ball. You see the other one who will be a senior next year, you know, just excited about graduating. He's got a job now. He's working. He's got his money. I'm getting Amazon packages to the house. Like, I didn't order this. Pat, I'm like, I didn't order this. Oh yeah, it's mine, Pops. Yeah,
it's me, Pop. Let me get that.
Back, for you. Back, Pops. It's mine. That's my package right there. Like, man, like what's going on? So it's a good thing, man. Fatherhood is definitely a blessing, man, and it's you know, it's an awesome time. So that's pretty much it, man. I'm just excited to be doing the show. I'm excited for you know, our upcoming season. We have summer camp starting in June. Got some things. We got some joint practices this year in which the IHSA allows each school to have 4 joint practices with another school. So it's our version of a joint practice, like NFL style with training camp. So it's going to be fun, something that they haven't done. I don't think they've ever done here in Illinois in terms of high school football. So
yeah, I was going to say that seemed a little dangerous. I remember playing high school football. We ain't like the dudes over there.
You can't. Well, you got to schedule. You know, you got to get the right opponent. Obviously, you don't want to schedule any teams that you're going to go up against during the regular season. But the good thing is, you know, you get to go against teams who may have a similar offense to what you may see. Yeah. You get a chance to bond with other coaches, and you get a chance to your players get to bond with some other players and to go against some good competition before the season really kicks off. So it's really an advantage, you know, having this opportunity, because when you look at Illinois, right, we don't have spring football here. The state of Florida, we have spring football. So, I mean, kids are tackling there and helps and shoulder pads. They're playing spring games, whereas here, you know, you don't have that. So, you know, having this opportunity with them changing the rules and giving teams, you know, an opportunity to go against each other earlier, I think it's just going to bring out a better brand of football, you know, when that fall season kicks off.
I got to ask you this, man, because I was cracking up last night watching the Lakers game, and Jokic was amazing. I believe it was 34, 21, and 11. I see why people laughed when I was like, Embiid is the MVP, and then you get to the playoffs and it's like, yeah, he not. Let me ask you this though. There's a shot where Jokic, one-legged, pull up, midi, knocks it in. AD just looks at him. He's like, from three, I'm sorry. AD just looks at him, starts laughing. Was there a time when you was on the field where somebody on the other team was just so amazing that all you could do was just stare at that man and just start laughing and be like, we ain't got it today, boys?
Yeah. Yes. Adrian Peterson.
I knew it. I knew it was going to be
his rookie year, they came to Soldier Field, and I think we went to overtime that game, and they beat us. But I think he ran for like 200 and something yards that game. But he was a rookie that year, and he was so good. Normally, when our offense comes off the field, we go sit down, you meet with your position coach to kind of break down the drive that you just had, make some adjustments. This is how good he was, right? The position coaches, they're all standing up on the sideline. We're standing up on the sideline to see what he's going to do. And when you have your guys come off the field, you have your defensive players come off the field. You can ask Lance about this. They come off the field, and they're like, man, this guy is like, I'd be like, wow, there's nothing like, this guy is it. And that was his rookie year.
Yeah.
Anytime they put the ball in his hand that game, he was going. And if I recall, that game went into overtime, and we lost the toss. So we're kicking off, and they put him, they took out their starting kick returner, who I don't know who it was at that time, but they took him out and they put Adrian Peterson back there, and he returned the ball to like the 40, their 40-yard line, and I think that set them up to win the game. I think they won by a field goal. Like, he was that dynamic. I've never seen no running back, run somebody over standing straight up like he did. Like, he was. You see how he played. Like, he was a man.
AP was a monster among men.
The guy ran for over 2,000 yards coming off a knee injury. Come on, man. Coming off a terrible knee injury like he had.
He was a monster among men. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Like, I remember watching him and just being like, I say this because it was so tough, because he came back off of the knee injury better, and I was like, you just messed up everybody who's ever gonna get an ACL after you.
Yeah.
Because after that, Muggs was like, AP came back. What did he come back in, like 7 months, 6 months?
Yeah.
Something like that. And he came back and rushed for 2,000 yards. Insane, dog. Absolutely insane.
The funny thing is, and I hope I have the timeline right. So when did AD come in the league? 05 was his first year?
No, he was 07, the rookie year, right?
Okay.
07 was his rookie year.
So my timeline is right. So we drafted Tommy Harris. Obviously, we had Big Tommy on the show, my brother Tommy. And I remember when AD was in college, Tommy's an OU guy. We had a couple OU guys on the team, Mark Bradley and all these guys, OU guys on the team, and they always talked about OU. And I remember Tommy saying that AD was the best running back in the league when he was still in college. And I remember him saying, AD is the best running back in the league. I'm like, but he's at Oklahoma. What are you talking about? He's the best running back in the league, J-Mac. Watch when he comes out. He's the best running back in the league. In that game, I'm like, man.
Your memory's impeccable, by the way. November 14, 2007, the Chicago Bears surrendered a franchise record, 224 rushing yards to Peterson.
Yeah.
A stunned Soldier Field crowd witnessed Peterson score on runs of 67, 73, and 35. He even returned the final kickoff of the game, 53 yards, to set up Minnesota's game-winning.
I told you, hey, he's good if I remember that, Chicago. Come on. You know he's a dog if I remember that.
That's insane, dog. I'm not going to lie. I got to go back and watch that game, J-Mac. I'm going to be looking for you on the sidelines.
You gonna see me? You see me just like this. You gonna see me like this. Hey, you gonna see me with my hot dog with ketchup on it like this.
Oh no! See that's why. That's why he ran for 224 yards. It was you. It wasn't the defense. It was you. He saw the hot dog. He was like, "This ain't Chicago."
No, I blame Chicago because some restaurant fed him real well before that game, and he went out there and he ate real well in terms of yardage that game.
See, you should have gave him the deep dish pizza. He would have been too heavy to run. It wouldn't have worked out for him. Hey, man, let's get into the third quarter out here, man. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Let us know how you guys feel about both the topics that we've talked about so far. Justin Fields taking a leap. Danielle Hunter being a trade target for the Bears. We get into this third quarter here. Bears road schedule, I think most of us believe is pretty tough, right? The home schedule we both talked about feeling pretty good about, but I want to get your perspective on the road matchup, not just from the teams that we're playing, but from the environment that we're heading in. You played in all of these stadiums, except the new ones, I guess. Right. But what do you think is going to be the toughest road matchup for the Chicago Bears this season from a stadium environment, team environment type of situation?
Yeah, I'd say early on, probably Kansas City. What is that? Week 3.
Kansas 3, yeah.
City. Yeah, Kansas City. I mean, that's when I know Poles was on the show with a couple of our guys earlier last week. And
on with Black and Abdallah, yep.
Yeah, he was on with Black and Abdallah, and he talked about, environments, right? And we talked about, Kansas City. You talked about their stadium, right? Yeah. And he said it's the closest thing. He even said he liked going there, watching games because it was the closest thing that he's seen to a college environment in terms of the NFL. And I've played there a few times. I played there when I was here in Chicago. I was there with the Ravens. We played a playoff game against them, and it's electric. It's loud. I mean, them fans come out. It's electric. So that environment is a very hostile environment. But on top of that, I mean, you talk about the type of team that Andy Reid and that organization has put together. I mean, come on. I mean, you've got a generational quarterback. We all know that. Patty Mahomes, he's going to do his thing. But the talent that they keep stockpiling around him, you lose Tyreek Hill last year, and you still want to.
You don't miss a beat. Juju Smith, same dude, right? Not at all, but
right. I mean, like Juju Smith was in Pittsburgh. He lost favor in Pittsburgh. He comes to Kansas City, and Andy Reid just helped revitalize his career. Or he doesn't have to be the man, so now he's a piece, and he can just flourish in the role that they had him in, and that goes back to what we talked about with Justin Fields, having the right offensive minds to bring out the best in your offensive players, to bring out their talents. And, the interesting thing with that is I look at that matchup, Eric Bieniemy is not going to be there this year. He left and he went to Washington. Yeah. So he's not going to be there. So how is that going to change? You know what I'm saying? How is that going to change?
Is Nagy calling plays again?
How's that offense going to look? You have a guy in Eric Bieniemy who's been there, who's been a part of every step, who's been a part of all that success they've had, who's been Andy Reid's right-hand man. And now he's not there. A guy who helped develop Patrick Mahomes, and he's not there. So what is that going to look like? Now, Andy Reid is, Hall of Famer, one of the best to ever do it. Had the opportunity to be coached by him my rookie year in Philadelphia. I mean, the man was amazing back then, continues to do amazing things. And I mean, I don't think they'll miss a beat, but I do think they will have some growing pains without having, Eric Bieniemy, a guy who's been there.
Is Matt really calling plays, or is Andy calling plays and Matt's doing like 2-minute drills?
Yeah, I don't know. That's
the real question. Because I'm not gonna lie, if Matt's calling plays, I need people to understand. Matt Nagy ran literally one of the worst offenses in NFL history. So if Matt's calling plays, I almost give us a little bit of a chance. Now, if Andy's calling plays and he's telling, all right, Matt, call this. Yeah, I mean, like, if we got a situation like that, we might be in trouble.
But it's the difference, though. And I ain't going to call out their names. When Matt was calling plays here in Chicago, he was calling the play, but who was running the play?
Yeah, that's a big difference. Big difference.
Now, when you sometimes, right, the player's ability is going to trump the play. So, we talked about Adrian Peterson, right? You may call a run play. You may call outside zone. You may have to stop.
Yeah.
He's got the ability to put his foot in the ground, cut it back, run somebody over, then outrun the whole defense. You call a play with Patty Mahomes, and, we got the perfect coverage call. But because he has that ability to be able to maneuver in the pocket, to plant his feet and to throw off platform, to throw from anywhere off platform, and complete a pass for 30 yards to Travis Kelce. Bad play call.
Yeah.
But you got talent that trumps the play.
Is he the best quarterback you've ever seen?
Man, I'm not going to say that. There's so many great quarterbacks in this league.
So many.
So many. I mean,
so many.
But that goes back to
six AFC title games, though, is crazy.
Yeah, like I hate when people do that. Like, I know I'm going from basketball to football, but you talk about Jokic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So who was it? Who was calling the game? Was it Mark Jackson?
Yes.
Mark Jackson comes out and said he's the greatest of all time. Are you kidding? Come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah. There's a lot to go. There's a lot of time to go.
Come on, man.
There's a lot of time to go. Let him get a ring first.
Yeah, man. He didn't have a ring, man. Come on. Now, Pat Mahomes, is he?
He got a couple rings, though. He got a couple rings.
He's definitely one of the best to ever do it, and he's still playing. But is he the best? No, I don't think he's the best. Does he
I think he's making a heck of a case towards that. I'm with you.
His career's not over. So, I mean, TB12, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue that.
Yeah.
It's hard to argue that.
He is, in my opinion, he is the best right now. But Patty Mahomes, his career is not over yet. So
what I'll say to that is what made him the best is being able to come back. What people forget about Tom Brady, probably because they're very young and saw Tom Brady later, or they just didn't pay attention to Tom as close. But there's like 10 years where he didn't win in a row.
Yeah.
Like they won. What they win? They won 3 rings, and then they didn't win again for 10 years.
Yep. That's crazy, right? And the picture I love of him when you see he's got all the rings on and he's like this.
Yeah, man. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's 1, 2, 3. Give me some time.
Yeah.
4, 5, 6, 7. Right? Like it's a little different. So and the NFL changed a lot from the time where he won his first 3 to when he won his second 3. So that's always right. Like I feel like he's making a heck of a case, but let's see if there's that lull. Let's see, what happens when. Because the thing for Pat Mahomes is that he'll last longer than his skill players for the most part.
Yeah.
So are they going to be able to find new skill players? How long is Andy Reid going to continue to be his head coach? There's a lot of things that play into that because Andy Reid is a savant.
Andy Reid's a monster. But that's another thing, too, that plays into it, right? A lot of people, when Tom was in New England, a lot of people saying, oh, he's a system quarterback. He's winning these rings because of Belichick. Well, he went to Tampa and then won another ring. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? So that kind of ended that debate right there because he went to a Tampa Bay team that didn't make the playoffs the previous year, and then they came back and won the Super Bowl.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Tom was amazing. I'm not gonna lie to you. And the thing is, right, it wasn't one of those like, oh, it's the end of Tom's career and somebody else did it for him. Now, Tom was slanging that thing in that Super Bowl. He wasn't joking.
Tom's a monster.
Hey, man, let's get into the fourth quarter. Let's finish this show out on a high note here. You brought up a really interesting topic. Wanted to bring this to the forefront. Who do we feel is the name on the roster who will make an impact that is not in the spotlight right now? J-Mac, who do you have in mind that's going to take that step?
Yeah, I'm looking at this receiver room. A lot of guys in that room. Brought in some guys via the draft. Guy was there last year, Dante Pettis. Right, he was a second-round draft pick when he came out. Got good athleticism. Was their main returner last year. Has the ability, but only had 19 catches last year, right? Yeah. So he's in a situation where, when he's in that wide receiver room, and he may be in there right now because I think they're in OTAs, right? You look to your left, you see Tyler Scott. Look to your right, there's Velus Jones. You look in front of you, there's DJ Moore. You look to the right of DJ Moore, there's Darnell Mooney, right? Yeah. I got to do something if I want to be here. EQ say Brown's over here. I got to do something if I want to be here. Right. We talked about it. I think last week we talked about it being, they say in the NFL, they say don't count numbers, but it is a numbers game. They're only going to keep a certain amount, for each position. So I know I got to go out here and make plays. I got to do something to change the narrative because, DJ Moore is going to be here. Yeah. Darnell Mooney is going to be here when healthy. Chase Claypool is going to be here. Tyler Scott's going to be here, drafted guy. So I got to go out here. I got to beat out somebody. So I'm looking at him I think he's got the size, he's got the athleticism to make plays, and he can put a monkey wrench in that wide receiver room. So I'm looking at him to maybe be a guy, and there's always one that like we said when you started this, that's not in the limelight, that just does a tremendous job in training camp, that just blows the doors off training camp, has a great preseason, and then the dilemma comes in. How do we keep this guy? I think Dante Pettis could be one of those guys this year on the offensive side.
I look at the defensive side, right? I think there's a name that we often overlook because of the young people that are coming in, because of the rookies that we've drafted, different things like that. I think Justin Jones is going to be a key to this defense. I think he's going to be a real key, and a name that probably many of us have overlooked because of Javon Dexter, because of Zach Pickens. We think that they're going to be in the middle of that defense. Mm-hmm. But Justin Jones with the Chargers was an elite run stopper. And I think with a better defense behind him and a better defensive front, hopefully around him, he'll be a guy that I don't know if he gets back. I believe he had 7 sacks with the Chargers. I don't know if he gets back to a 7-sack guy. But what I do think that he can do is stifle the run with some of the best of them. And now he's going to have defensive players around him that are going to be able to help him to be able to do that. I think that that's something where last season, right, it was easy to run on the Bears. Like all you had to do was say, okay, there's nobody on the outside. I'm gonna run this thing outside. I didn't have to run at Justin Jones. I can run away from Justin Jones all day. I know he's good at that. Yeah. Don't go at him. Let's go over here. Let's go over here. Let's get outside. I think that now with better players there, right, when you have players that are going to be able to come up and set that edge, and you've got players on your front line, hopefully being able to get a little more penetration. Justin Jones, to me, is the guy that I looked at that I think is going to really be able to kind of stand out, step up. And we heard him talk again with Bleck and Abdallah at the draft party. I just love his mentality. Yeah. He was like, they were asking him about, playing against the Packers and how, right, like everybody's going at you and how everybody's doubting you. He just looked at it and said, I love it.
Yeah, I got one for you too.
Oh, let's do it.
Side. So I'm going to go for the underdog. I've been in this situation with these guys. I've been the underdog. I've been in a room that's had 4 fullbacks, my rookie year, and I was 4th when I came in. So I look at it like this, right? Everybody's talking about pass rush. We're talking about, hey, bring in Danielle Hunter. Yannick
Ngakoue.
Yeah, I can't pronounce Yannick Ngakoue.
Yannick Ngakoue.
Last name, thanks, Pat. Yannick Ngakoue is out there, right? Now, here's a guy who Poles drafted his first year, who really good athleticism. I think he played receiver for his entire career. And then I think he had 2 years of playing defensive end. And they drafted him based upon his potential, right? And I'm talking about Dominic Robinson.
Yeah.
Right. You look at Dominic Robinson, right? Hasn't played the position for a long time. When you look at how long he played that position in college, I think he played it for 1 year. And then he had that COVID year, so he didn't play. So he opted to stay and then had a full year playing that position. So his first year in Chicago may have been his 3rd year, maybe, playing defensive end. So you get another year in this defensive system, right? You get another year of development with your position coach. You already had the skill set, but now you have more of an understanding of the position and how to play the position. Yeah. You get to come in and learn from some of the older guys. But you see what they didn't do, the older guys, right? You see they didn't get pressure on the quarterback. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right. You learn how to be a pro from them, but you see, hey, they didn't get no sacks. And, that's all they're talking about in Chicago. Here's Pat, the designer, talking about bring in Danielle Hunter, on the Chicago Bears podcast. So he knows he has opportunity, right? Yeah. And he'd be a guy who's developed, right? Who's learned how to play the position, that can come in and make some noise. They can come in and show that he can get consistent pressure on the quarterback. So he's kind of a dark horse who nobody's talking about. We're talking about guys and free agents, veteran free agents, and you have a guy that has potential who you brought in your first year of the draft who hasn't really shown anything because he's still learning how to play the position. So I'm excited to see what he does.
All I need him to do is not give away the thing that he figures out on the field to the media. Just don't do that no more. I thought he came out, what is that, week 1 versus the 49ers, comes out killing off of the right side, left side of the line, getting into the backfield every play. Like, oh man, this dude's amazing. Goes straight into the press conference. Yeah, man. He lifted his foot this way every time. I knew it was a pass. I was like, what are you doing? Like, don't. Like, now, granted, listen.
For a young player, that's good, though. He's showing you he's reading keys. For a young player to see, be able to read keys like that and to have that type of game early, he's shown flashes. He can be a factor, but now can you do it consistently?
Yeah. Hey, AJ Mac, I was very big on one thing in high school because I spent a lot of time in detention and in ISS. Silent reading. Let's work on some silent reading out here, Dominique. Let's do a little bit of silent reading out here.
Right. Don't give it away.
Hey, you gotta get the keys away. You gotta get the keys away, man. Hey, man, that's another episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. The Wednesday edition is in the books. Me and J Mac here. Appreciate you guys for tuning in and showing love. Make sure you're hitting that like button, subscribe to the page, drop a comment, drop a bird down in the comments below if you made it all the way to the end of the podcast. Shout out to you guys. Make sure you're leaving a 5-star review over on Spotify and on iTunes. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.
Bear down.
Bear down.